Alright, what is going on, people of the internet? If you've been following the channel for a little while, you're probably already aware that I had been, for the longest time, trying to start up a Scorched Earth server, and if you're one of the people that applied, amazing, that's amazing, you're already on our Discord, you already probably have played on the server, or you've forgotten entirely about it. That idea was a very ambitious one from the beginning, I said it many, many times, and it started up eventually. It took a very long time to set up and get everything working. We had our admin team, we had a bunch of problems that we ran into along the way, but finally we had the server started up. But there were some things that we thought were missing about that, and really, it was causing a lot of problems for the server itself. There weren't a lot of active people. Scorched Earth, I think, kind of ran its course, and while it is an extremely interesting DLC and it's very atmospheric, I don't think it's as good as regular Ark. That's just my opinion. You're free to your own one, of course, but I think that Ark itself is a more complete game when you play it in a map like the center or like the island, which you're seeing right in the background. This is from the center, obviously. Scorched Earth doesn't have a complete kibble chart. You can't use most beacon mods for Scorched Earth because they have different drops. The one that we would usually be using didn't support Scorched Earth stuff, so you couldn't get Desert Cloth Armor or Thorny Dragon saddles or Rock Golem saddles or anything like that. And we kind of realized pretty early on into the Scorched Earth server that, you know, it wasn't going to work with our idea as well. As well as the fact that while we did have our goal of people invited to the server, not many people were playing at once, and we had a very small group of people who were actually quite active. I was lucky enough to have my tribe be one of them, but the other tribes for the most bit didn't have a lot of members online. As a result, we pulled very far ahead, and we didn't really feel like we had much of a challenge. We had an adobe house encased in metal. We had a very high level mantis tamed up very quickly. Within the week that it started, we had all of the new dinosaurs already started up, and I recorded somewhere around about a week's worth of footage, which in total was at least 60 hours of recordings. So we've decided to effectively scrap that idea, but we have kind of decided more or less to replace it. We've taken some elements from it and replaced it otherwise. The problem with that whole idea for that server was people had to be very active for it to work out, because it was supposed to be, well, I described it as a soft RP server, so you didn't have to be in character the whole time. You didn't have to be following the rules of the server, or you just had to be following the rules of the server, rather. And that made it so we had to have a lot of different moderators, making sure that everything was happening at once. If you're not already familiar with it, we were planning on modeling it more or less like early civilization, where you would have different tribes set up, they would have different states of leadership and governing themselves differently, and people would start out in the peaceful state. This would give them an opportunity to build up when they would move into neutral, and then from there you couldn't attack people. You had to fully declare war on them so that they weren't being blindsided. It was really an ambition to fix all of the problems that games like Ark and like a bunch of these sandbox survival games have in my mind, and I imagine in a lot of other people's mind, because it drew quite a bit of attention. And we got the original goal for people. We set up the server, and now we've decided to remodel it a little bit. We've actually decided to open the server up to the community and switch over to the center map. With opening it up to the public, we can't enforce the rules, so we've decided to also reshape those a little bit. So where before we would have a very hard rule set where you could only do certain amounts of things, we've kind of just changed it now and remodeled it slightly so that there's going to be no offline rating, because offline rating sucks, and there's going to be no poor language choices in the server. There's a full rule set that we've had written up, and I'm going to put a link to everything in the description. If you want to join the server, it is public now. It's community. Please do respect these rules and don't, you know, go out of your way to be an ass on the server, because you're just going to be banned. We've made it a lot easier for our admins to just kind of handle that responsibility on the server of making sure things are working, and we've been a lot looser on the rules. So in total, we've kind of come out with a standard PvP server, and it is going to be PvP after the grace period has expired, because I don't like, you know, wanting to worry about getting raided when I'm setting up a thatch hut. So it's going to be PvE until November the 12th, which is when I'm going to be switching the server over to PvP, which is when you can declare war on anybody you want. You can just raid them. No offline raiding, obviously. That's going to be a problem. If we find out people are offline raiding, that they're going to be receiving punishment and probably a temp ban or maybe a permanent ban, depending on the severity of it. But anyway, I am very happy to report that we've got a public server going now. We've come out with the idea of having 3 times leveling, 3 times gathering, 5 times taming, 8 times raising, and 10 times egg hatching rates, as well as we've prevented dinosaur downloads, dinosaur uploads, item download, item upload, survivor download, survivor upload, all that stuff. We will allow upload in the last week of the server when we figure that it's time to shut it down and do something else. This is not planned out for the near future. We have no immediate plans to have an end date or anything even remotely close to that. So right now, all we've really got is a working server with no end in sight. I forgot to mention that we're also running the following mods, which is Resource Stacks mod, Eco RP Decor, APS Arc Postal Service, Eco's Scorched Earth Decor, Meat Spoiler, as well as the Versatile Rafts mod, with plans to include in the future S+, Structures Plus mod, and potentially the Zipline mod. And I'm excited to announce that it's open to the public. So here is the password. It is arkascension, all lowercase. Arkascension, all lowercase. Arkascension, all lowercase. Somebody's going to leave a comment now saying, oh, what's the password? Who's the password? Who is it? I don't know. Maybe check your description. The server is just going to be titled Arc, blah, 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 blah. It's going to be default naming scheme. So there's nothing really fancy about it. What you're seeing in the background is footage of the day one that we were on. We've already been on for about 2 days. I wanted to open this up for people who had applied to the previous server so that they had priority in choosing where they wanted to build, so that other tribes weren't going to be getting in. So there are going to be some base locations already taken up by the time that you do get into this server if you haven't already joined. But this was simply because people had put in a lot of time and energy into joining the server and playing the Scorched Earth version, so I wanted to give them the freedom to choose their own base location here and now. But for the most bit, we're going to be starting up a standard PvP server. It's going to be going PvP November the 12th. We have our own TeamSpeak. You'll find that out if you join the server. Enter the password. Everything's going to be in the description. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you on the server. Peace.
The password is arkascension.